get around, I get around, yeah, get around.
Woo! That's all I'm going to do. Tokyo Olympics starting later this month, about 10 days and counting, are bringing back memories of the first time Japan hosted the Summer Games back in 1964. This was an opportunity for a defeated and devastated country to show that it had transformed itself into a modern nation. Unlike today, when some officials say the Games should be canceled due to COVID, every Japanese citizen stood behind the massive effort to welcome the world to Tokyo. Lucy Craft met some of those people who will be watching, she's trying to say, the latest Olympics and thinking of what they did 57 years ago.
Emperor Hirohito and Jesse Owens watch as Bob Hayes adds his name to the honor roll of champions.
From the emperor on down, every Japanese seemed to be on the same team back in 1964. Pumped about welcoming visitors and determined to pull off a perfect Olympics just 19 years after Japan's defeat in World War II. Among them was a painfully shy teenage factory worker named Mitsuru Suzuki. Now 76, Suzuki and his wife Sachiko run a noodle joint in downtown Tokyo. Pride of place belongs to his old jersey from one of the most exciting moments in his life, running in the 1964 Tokyo Olympic torch relay.
Suddenly, people at the factory knew my name. I became their little hero.
Back then, the entire country was on an adrenaline rush, said author Roy Tomizawa.
This is Komazawa Olympic Park, and it was the site of field hockey.
Tomizawa, a self-described Olympics nerd who's written a book on the first Tokyo Olympics, argues 1964 was the greatest year in Japanese history.
I don't think I can imagine a time that Japan was more aligned in its mission to, one, get the country back on its feet, and two, make sure that the 1964 Tokyo Olympics was a fantastic show that impressed the heck out of the rest of the world.
As host nation for the first games to be held in Asia, the Japanese have gone all out to provide the best facilities possible.
Instead of a devastated country that made cheap toys, Japan was shockingly hyper-modern, with brand new superhighways and the world's fastest train, its famous bullet train.
People were really surprised at the quality of the technology.
The stunning success of 1964 looms large over this summer's Olympics. Observers say it helps explain why Japan is so determined to push ahead with the Games despite widespread public opposition amid the global pandemic. Still grappling with the 2011 quake, tsunami, and nuclear catastrophe and prolonged economic malaise, Japan had sought another Olympics-inspired do-over. Noodle shop owner Suzuki said the 1964 Olympics changed his life, giving him and other young Japanese a new sense of confidence and optimism, sentiments he says are missing today.
This year, things are totally different. In 1964, everyone was excited about the Olympics. Now, people aren't so sure we should have an Olympics at all.
This time, the Olympics has divided the country instead of uniting it, and recapturing that old Olympics magic has never seemed more elusive. For CBS This Morning, Lucy Craft, Tokyo.
Yeah, that's,
boy, what a difference.
Yeah,
Do you remember this?
I do remember it because there were some very big Olympic stars from the U.S. at that time, and it was sort of when I first was becoming conscious of what the Olympics were.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting this time is, I mean, the vaccination rate in Japan is startlingly low.
Yeah. Yes.
And given how much faith and hope they had in this Olympics, you would have thought they would have prepared more in that regard.
I'm actually a little worried about the Olympics, but I also feel for the athletes who have been training.
Yeah.
It's
heartbreaking for them.
Yeah.
Years of work, and they missed this moment.
It's hard to know what the right thing to do is. We want things to go back to normal. We want our athletes to be celebrated, but they need to be safe too.
Yes.
Exactly.